I think I should quit while I'm ahead. Well, last one. What's the favorite saying of dentists? Put your money where your mouth is. All right, so my speech writers would be happy with that. It is a great honor and privilege to stand before you today as your keynote speaker for the 60th annual convention of the Jamaica Dental Association. I'm not sure you've ever had a prime minister address you before. It's quite possible. But I was trying to see whether or not that was the case. I couldn't find anything online that would suggest that. So I will say I'm the first prime minister to address you, until history proves otherwise. And so I consider it a great privilege. Now, I gather that your conference has been ongoing for 6 decades. In the scheme of things, any organization, any institution that manages to pass 50 years is now considered established. So the convention is well established, but the association, I gather, is 96 years old. So you are double time established. I listened keenly to Dr. Cook and took note of the part of his presentation where he said that you will be lobbying the government. Indeed, the association was formed precisely to do that. In 1926, thereabout, the government decided that it would register persons who were pretending to be dentists. I think they called them dental mechanics at the time. Sorry? Quacks, good. I found it curious in the research because the association was formed to try and prevent the legislation from coming into place, the legislation that would regulate dentistry. It was not successful, hence the law. Nevertheless, the association, because of having people coming together, survived. So it is coming full circle that legislation, which I believe has not been updated in a long time, since 76. So now you do have a legitimate opportunity to lobby the government for upgrade and changes to the legislation. And the laws that you have pointed out, are absolutely important that they be reflected in the new legislation that could emerge to regulate dentistry. Certainly data protection. That is one that is going to affect almost all professions, all industries. So I look forward to, well, I won't be sitting opposite you, but I'm certain that the Minister of Health looks forward to your lobbying. That was a silence. So, the association, however, has taken on other important roles, such as ensuring standards, both in terms of professional and ethical standards, in terms of ensuring the integration of new technology into local practice, developing innovation, and ensuring that the outreach and volunteerism of the dental profession is well established in Jamaica. And I want to take this opportunity to commend our dentists who have given of their time and resources to ensure that Jamaicans can have beautiful smiles. I must say that I believe that the association can claim success in ensuring that the practice of dentistry in Jamaica is first world, totally modernized and in keeping with the trajectory of the technology and new practices in the field. Don't be hesitant in your applause. I believe it, so I hope you do as dentists. But I do know there are issues, not necessarily with the entire profession, but certainly issues to do with remuneration, particularly for those who are in the public practice. I did not come here, however, let me be quick with that, to address those issues. But as Prime Minister, everything gets to my table. And so that's a good segue into pointing out to you that when I had accepted this invitation, there was no such thing as a date for a local government election. And so you're smack in the middle of a campaign. So you will forgive me if I do some campaigning. And it is with a reason and a purpose. I'm certain that the audience to which I'm speaking are not only dental professionals, certainly. You are doctors and you value and you defend and protect your profession. But layered on top of that is your business. Many of you are operating dental practices, and you conduct your practice within the business environment. And the truth is that as our economy improves, as the business environment improves, as more people get employed, more people will be spending their income on dentistry, whether it is critical or cosmetic. So I believe the dental profession has a keen interest in the state of our economy. And so I wanted to use this opportunity to point out the state of the Jamaican economy. We have had 10 consecutive quarters of economic growth since the pandemic. Prior to the pandemic, we had 20 consecutive quarters of economic growth. Yes? What this indicates is that your government has established a solid track record of sustained growth. In fact, my administration has presided over the longest unbroken period of economic expansion since independence. Unemployment is at a record low of 4.2%. A few dentists have complained to me that they can't find staff to work in their practice. It's a good problem to have, but it's a problem that we have to solve very quickly. It may shock you to learn that since my administration in 2016, we have created 156,000 new jobs. We are on target to get our debt to GDP down to 74% by the end of March 2024. This is well below pre-pandemic levels and the lowest in 25 years. I want to just pause a little bit on the debt. I had the opportunity to speak to some youngsters who would be in their final year of high school. There were fifth formers and some sixth formers. And I was asking them what's their understanding of this concept of debt to GDP. And they gave me some interesting concept, but it highlighted to me that not many Jamaicans appreciate the feat that we have accomplished as a society. And I'm not going to be political on this one because both administrations had to make a commitment to this. The fact is that had we not come to terms with our debt, Jamaica would have collapsed. We were on the brink of bankruptcy as a country. And we, as a country, as a nation, as a people, we had to come together to solve this problem. So as an economic indicator, we have done exceedingly well on this parameter. At one point in time, our debt to GDP was as high as 150%, meaning that if we decided to pay off our debt in 1 year's production of GDP, we would still have 50% of the debt outstanding. And to get to the point that if we were, in a simplistic way, decided to pay off our debt today, we would still have 26% of our GDP to spare, coming from that deficit to having a surplus relative to our debt. That's just one way of explaining it. Our credit ratings are now at the highest level they have ever been. In September 2023, Standard & Poor's upgraded Jamaica's rating to double B minus. Recall that we are coming from triple C. And that we spent a decade in the single B category, with the last 4 years at single B plus. So, just very quickly, the rating agencies essentially make a pronouncement on the financial viability of a country. In other words, if the international market were to lend money to Jamaica, how safe would those bonds be? So in a sense, we are judged as being good stewards of resources. That's essentially what the ratings mean. So it is really a complement to the fiscal management of the country. The paradoxical thing is that even though you have this great rating, you don't want to use it. In other words, you don't want to borrow. But the benefit of the great rating is that if you do decide to borrow, you can borrow at lower interest rates because the risk of lending to us is lower. So that's a significant change in Jamaica's international profile, from being viewed as a very risky country to being viewed as a well-managed country. And for the last fiscal year, 2022 to 2023, Jamaica recorded a balance of payment surplus on our current account of US $352 million. The last time Jamaica had a current account surplus was in 1966. So you can see that all the economic metrics are heading in the right direction. Our net international reserves were at a record high of $4.75 billion as at December 31st, 2023. That's probably the highest it has ever been. But for most of my lifetime, I recall the reserves being like $2 billion, $1.75 billion in 2013. We were hovering at just about 13 weeks of imports, which was really, the danger level. We have created an environment of fiscal certainty with 8 consecutive budgets with no new taxes. Inflation has been, my script says, has been tamed. I wouldn't, inflation is a beast that's hard to tame. What you want to do with inflation, however, is to manage your economy such that you are targeting inflation. And that's essentially monetary policy. And what we have done is to be very strategic. Our administration introduced this whole business of inflation targeting. Before, monetary policy was focused on trying to control the exchange rate. And that led to significant depletion in our reserves. We've changed all of that. And now, even after a period of global inflation because of the pandemic, where countries in North America saw inflation rose as high as 12%. In the United Kingdom, inflation went to as high as 12%. In Jamaica, inflation went to that level as well. But now it is trending back within our targeted band of 4 to 6%. And that means that we have done more than any other administration to protect fixed income workers, to protect pensioners, and to protect the poor than any other administration by this one policy metric of targeting and controlling inflation. You don't have to clap for that. I will clap for that. Because this is the metric that really determines how people feel about all the other glorious things that are happening. That's really the connecting linchpin between economic policy and whether or not people smile about it. And there is a sense that the government has done well in terms of its economic policy. There is no question about it. The statistics are such it cannot be refuted. But how do we translate this now into smiles? That's the real issue. So there is a lag time between us establishing this institutional reform, this economic management, and these lovely statistics and numbers that I've just given you, into household benefits. And that's where Jamaica is right now. So for the last 8 or so years, well, for the last decade, we have worked as a country to put ourselves in this good economic position. The next decade now would be, how do we continue to manage the economy well, not go off on reckless spending or spurious programs that could wreck the economy, but at the same time take the dividends of this improved economic performance to make the lives of Jamaicans much better than it is. There is an impatience in democracy. That's what keeps countries free. And especially where there is a high level of frustration. But this also creates its own problems. Because what we have seen happen in situations, and we have been in this situation before, where the economy is turning around, but the social pressures are increasing, and the politics tilts towards a response to the social pressures. But those social pressures end up undermining the economy, which is needed to be able to actually address the social pressures. So I'm speaking to an audience that I'm sure understands this message, that we must maintain our strong and well-performing economy. So how do we solve this kind of conundrum? An economy that is performing well, there is obvious frustration because the dividends have not translated as rapidly as we would want into household benefits. The politics, in other words, this coincides with a political cycle, which leads to overpromising, which could then upend the economic stability, which is what you need to keep the public on board, but to improve their circumstances. I mean, how do you solve that? I face this question every day. And one of the things we have done is to create a platform which we call the caring economy. We can't project the economy in such a way that it does not pay attention to and acknowledge the challenges faced in our society. So the caring economy looks at social safety nets. And you will see that the government has been progressively increasing its social safety net. The largest part of our social safety net is the PATH program. And we have expanded that almost every year. The number of days that students used to get meals, we have increased that. The actual level of the awards to students, we have increased that. We have increased for persons who are tertiary students, we give them grants on the PATH program. But we have also done some other things. We have expanded the number of drugs and the number of illnesses that are covered under the NHF, National Health Fund. We have put in a program that helps Jamaicans who have lost legs We help them with their prosthetics. But we have also put in a program, a dental program, to assist Jamaicans with their dental health for free. And many Jamaicans are benefiting from that. That's part of the caring economy. In housing, the government has pledged to build 70,000 houses. And as dentists, young dentists, I'm seeing many young professionals here, I'm certain that you will be beneficiaries of these housing units when they come onto the market. And they're coming onto the market at a rate of about 2,000 or so. And that is going to rapidly increase in the coming years. But we have also put in place a program called the New Social Housing Program, where we estimate that there are about 6,000 Jamaicans who live in the worst of the worst housing conditions. I've gone to places and seen people living in cars. I recently went to an area in Clarendon where there was a young lady living in an 8x8 shed with 3 children. Her youngest was stung by a scorpion. No windows there. And we built her a new house. And that is... So as we've put in policies that will rapidly increase the number of housing solutions that you can buy, we also have to care about those persons who will never be able to afford a home. We have done 200 of those so far, but bear in mind, there are 6,000. Even if I wanted to do it all at once, it is just physically not possible and fiscally not possible. But the program is in place and we will reach them. Just quickly on roads. Because I know that's what causes you not to smile sometimes. There are 22,000 kilometers of roadways in Jamaica. We estimate that probably half of them are in a state of disrepair. This didn't happen since 2016. The conversation may sound like it just happened in 2016. But as far as I can recall, in my 52 years, we've always had problems with roads. In fact, I recall one of my favorite politicians saying that he will make Jamaica pothole-free by a certain year, which has long passed 10 or so years ago. So we have this big challenge with roads. What caused it? Well, first of all, we just did not have the revenues to repair our roads. It's just the reality. And when you leave your roads neglected, especially if there's heavy traffic, there you have rains, and we with the weather that we have, you know, it's pretty much like not caring for your teeth. They will develop cavities. And that has, you know, so our roads, they have a lifetime, engineered lifetime when they're built, usually between 15 and 20 years. If you maintain them, they can last up to 25 years per maintenance cycle. So you can extend the life of your roads indefinitely by having a serious maintenance program. So as a crack appears, you seal it. As a pothole appears, you rehabilitate, you prevent water, you have the proper size drainage. We haven't been able to do that consistently. So our road network has fallen into serious disrepair. This exercise, which I have announced, the SPARK program, will, for the first time, allocate a sizable portion of the national budget to repair roads. We're going to introduce a new element to it, and we find that it is important to do it, and this element is consultation. So I know that there are many communities where I get the calls every time, the threats to block the road and to demonstrate and to protest. So we're saying, okay, we're going to allocate overall $40 billion to roads. I just want to put that into context. We have spent over $100 billion to raise the wage levels in the public sector, which now means that almost all public sector workers, except for those who have not yet resolved their issues, are 20% above minimum where they were before. Yeah. Now, so we have allocated $40 billion over the next 2 years, and that will be focused on our roads. This is not focused on highways now. This is focused on secondary roads, main roads, community roads, and some possible housing scheme roads. And what we're saying is we want the community to come together and help to make the determination as to which roads become priority. Because even with that, we will not be able to fix every road that is in need of repair. But instead of having people protesting all over, let's all come together as much as we can and, in a democratic process, determine the priority for roads to be repaired. Now, this $40 billion will improve the driving experience in Jamaica. As I said, it won't fix all the roads, but we are hopeful that we will be able to target all the main critical thoroughfares that will ease the pain points of driving in Jamaica. So I'm very, very happy that you have been such a wonderful audience, that you have listened carefully, and that you have picked up some new gems that will make your smiles even brighter than they were before. In closing, I want to thank the Jamaica Dental Association for the invitation and for the warm hospitality that you have shown and the lovely reception that I have received. I want to urge you to continue to support, protect, develop your profession. Dental health is an important part of the health service and an important part of our lives. And you play a very important role in making Jamaica a happy, smiling place. Ladies and gentlemen, thank you.